Hey folks, and welcome back to Glenn and Adrian's Rock Talk. That's Adrian.
And that's Glenn.
And today we are going to go back to Zena Drums, and we're going to watch her perform a drum cover for Lynyrd Skynyrd's Freebird. Yes, that most classic track of Skynyrd. For a while, it was the number 2 song in the rock canon, like the most requested, aside from, I think, Stairway to Heaven. That's probably not true anymore, or maybe it is, I don't know. But it's a big song in rock and roll history. Now, it was on Lynyrd Skynyrd's first album. There's a whole story that we have on Lynyrd Skynyrd and how they came to be, but we're actually going to get into that after we watch Zena presumably crush this, as she usually does with her covers. We've watched her do Steely Dan's Asia. We've seen her do a couple of Led Zeppelin tracks, a couple of original tracks here and there, and In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, I think, was the last one, which was great. It was a full cover, a full band cover that she was part of. So that was great. So this time it's just her, which is kind of the normal thing. This was done in July of last year, 2024, and it's about 9 minutes long. So looks like the whole thing. Probably their very best album was their first one. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. But Adrian, any thoughts ahead before we look at this?
I know that I like some of their music. I like the first album. I think I had that on tape somewhere.
How do you feel about Zena in general when she's doing her drum covers?
Zena in general, she's a fantastic drummer, man. She's very versatile. You know, she can do like an Elvis song, or she could drum like Neil Peart or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, we also watched her do Polk Salad Annie, that's right, with Elvis in the background. Yeah, very much looking forward to this. Let's take a look at this first, and then we'll get into it after we take a look. Sound good?
Hey.
Alrighty then. What'd you think, Adrian?
Well, the song fades out, but Xena doesn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what she has to do, right? That she did it on Asia, too.
Oh, yeah.
That's
This
right.
is my first time hearing this song and focusing on the drums.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, I love the march, you know, with the snare at the end there through so much of it.
I mean, the drums are pretty incredible in this song, too, but they get overlooked because there's some amazing guitar work in the song.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think on this album they only had 2 guitar players, Rossington and Collins, as their lead guitarists, but they became known as a 3-guitar attack band. You know, I think Ed King, who's on bass for much of this first album, became their 3rd guitar player. Like if you go up to second helping, he's become the 3rd guitar, and Leon Wilkinson is the bass player. Yeah, so Leon Wilkinson is actually not on the first album, for anybody that's confused. Apparently he joined after the recording of the first album. I think this is their very best album. I know that they got signed because Al Kooper walked into a place in Georgia, I think in Atlanta, and they were the headliner. And they were not signed yet. You know, he said he walks in, there's Ronnie Van Zant on stage, barefoot, stomping around, you know. and the band, they were tight as all get out. You know, that was the thing about them, is that they were a super tight band, and it was not what was expected, I guess, on that evening. Al Kooper championed them and got them signed to MCA and then proceeded to produce their first 3 albums. So Al Kooper, by the way, is the same guy who played organ on Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone and then became his regular organ player for a while. He then started Blood, Sweat, and Tears and their debut album, Child is Father to the Man. And then after that, he found Lynyrd Skynyrd. So he had an interesting career. And he was in Blues Project before all of that. Not a bad career. Yeah, I think Xena did a wonderful job on that cover. That is a song, it's another one that has a variable tempo. You know, another one of the, you know, we've talked about this before, songs that change tempo, which is something that new songs generally don't do. You don't hear tempo changes. You might hear beat changes, you know, but generally the tempo is the same throughout a song. And that's due to computers and how people are generally recording these days. It's so much easier not to change the tempo. If you want to get fancy with changing tempos, it gets a little tricky. Back then, you know, you had to have the feel for it. These guys just played and played and played for years before they got a record deal. You know, and by then they were just as tight as you can imagine. Just so good at what they did.
I noticed that Xena was also playing this song barefoot, and the only reason I can imagine why anybody would do that is so it gives them greater control over the pedals and what they're doing.
Yeah, I think we went into this recently on one of our warning videos with Pow. You know, she was barefoot at one of the festivals. It's common among drummers all across the spectrum. There are a lot of drummers that do it barefoot because you get a slightly better feel of it. If it's really hot out or something, you know, it's much more comfortable to be barefoot. Sometimes drummers will have a special pair of shoes they put on instead, you know, of being barefoot or having their regular shoes or sneakers on. It all depends on the drummer. You know, I mean, you can get a good tread, too, and, you know, have good shoes that are great for drums. But, yeah, you know, we see Sneaker Cam on Haruna of Love Bites once in a while, and she's always got on sneakers, you know, and not high tops or anything. They're, you know, just to her ankles.
I also noticed Xena kind of worked up a sweat doing this. I haven't seen her work up a sweat before.
Well, it's a long song, and it's pretty intense for the last half of the song, so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I even saw that in Agata Davida, and that's like 17 minutes long.
Well, that one's a lot slower, too, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
That one you can pace yourself for 17 minutes, but this one, there's about a 5-minute stretch where she's just going flat out the whole time.
Yeah, Agata Davida definitely isn't as demanding for drum as Freebird is.
We've seen her do Won't Get Fooled Again, too, which is pretty long, but that one does have breaks within it, you know, like where the synthesizer comes up for a while. She gets a couple minutes to, you know, and then come back. So it all depends, you know. But, yeah, this was probably the biggest workout we've seen her do so far. So, and she did a spectacular job. I loved that. It was so good to watch her play it and also just to immerse in the song. We have seen the song before, but we saw a live version from 1975, and at the time, I think Ed King had just left the band, so it was down to Washington Collins again. I thought it sounded great, but I've gotten a lot of comments on there going, you got to get one with 3 guitars, not 2. So maybe we'll do that someday. You know, if you happen to know of a really good version of this song, or really, you know, any of the songs that are on Skynyrd 1, pronounced Leonard Skynyrd, we'd love to check out a lot of those tracks. If there's a live performance in particular you want to recommend to us, by all means do so. And let us know what you thought about this performance. You know, and can you put it up against the other ones that we've looked at on the channel? It's almost time for a Cena playlist. Not quite, but almost. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you have other suggestions for us, leave those below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you enjoyed our presentation, please subscribe. All right, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one. All right, take care, folks.
See you all later.